Hi, I'm singer-songwriter and actor Robert Avallanet, and you're tuning into Deeper Than Music.
Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song is a greater story.
The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music, deeper than music.
Deeper Than Music Radio, behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube, Amazon. You can catch us on Amazon, Alexa, Audible, and all the other great platforms that this show is podcasting on. So I might age myself, but when I think about this guy, I think about the term "do work son." And if you watch Rob and Big, you understand what I'm talking about. 27 credits to his name. He's a filmmaker. You might have heard him or seen him on the American Horror Show with icons such as Felissa Rose and Lynn Lowry. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Michael S. Rodriguez here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today.
Not a problem. And we talked before the show. So if people know a little bit about me, I used to be in the Navy. And I was stationed at a place called Lemoore, California. Actually, my cousin talked me into going to this place. So I'm going out there thinking I'm going to be in Southern California, palm trees, beaches. And I was out there in green acres in the San Joaquin Valley. So Mr. Rodriguez told me he's out there in the valley. So shout out to you out in the valley. I do know how those summers get, man. So.
Oh, yeah, we're trudging through it, man. We're almost at the finish line. And I can't wait, I can't wait for, that September cold and then eventually the frost, because I'm a winter person. I don't do well in the heat.
Oh yeah, and it gets dry and hot out there. I remember one time I was on base, I was in the barracks, and it was like 12 o'clock. It was still in the high 90s. We were out there just like, man, yeah. So in the past about 2 years, we've been going through something unprecedented. A person like you, 27 credits, I imagine you grind it out. And I know that Hollywood had to make a couple shifts here and there. My first question is, how did the pandemic affect your business, and how were you able to navigate?
You know what's interesting, and I'm glad you actually, what you implemented into that question was about the larger scale of Hollywood having to make that shift. Well, first thing we had to do was there was guidelines. There was, you had to be very safe, because the thing is, I constantly grind. I've been doing it for a decade now, and I do a lot of producing behind the scenes of other stuff. But the minute this happened, and, it took a while for us to kind of get our bearing. And, once, they began giving protocols and classes on safety and things like that, I jumped on it and, got certified. That way we can stay going and everything like that. And what's interesting is, I know Hollywood almost completely kind of took a break. They had to they kind of almost had to reset themselves, and they have with streaming now. And to be honest with you, it was one of those moments where, like, I'm a independent filmmaker on the front line. And I'm like yelling at all the soldiers, "It's time to go now! Let's go!"
Yeah.
So we bought, you buy tons of masks, sanitizer. You go through all the protocols, and then you still get work done. So that's what we did. I got a few productions done during the summer, and suffering. I don't think it'll ever really suffer. But, I said, this is the time to kind of strike, but everybody's got to do it safely, So that's what we did. I cranked out a few films and produced a few things. And, you have to be careful because, COVID is no joke. It's real. I've had family, unfortunately, are no longer with us anymore because of it. So it's nothing to be taken lightly. But at the same time, I got to keep that hustle going, and just be careful. But like I said, it really changed the course of Hollywood itself, you know. And I mean, I'm always going to be for the little guy, and I eventually would like to be a big guy, you know, and be in that. But I know at the time, I'm like, wow, okay, this is slowed down, and independent people, you know, everybody's searching for content, and that's why I said indies, we hardly ever get seen. We get way looked over. So I thought to myself, this is a time for a lot of indies just to start pushing their content. You know, we got stuff that's probably, you know, the whole process to making films, right? People think, oh, you know, you make a film, you edit it together and you push it out there. But the whole process of even trying to get distribution, it sometimes takes years, you know? And then by the time your movie comes out in 2021, well, heck, you shot it in like 2017, you know? So like, it's nothing new to you. So, you know, I was telling everybody else, you got content out there, man, start fishing, because right now Hollywood's kind of jammed up. Throw out your content, you know, contact, you know, Amazon and, you know, start self-distributing and make a little coin while people are hungry for content. So it kind of towards the little guy's advantage, I guess you could say.
And you think, because with this pandemic, we really got to see how technology brings us together. And like you said, for content creators like yourself, is like, hey, we can push the envelope. Do you think the pandemic has kind of shifted the business model or the way, like what you do? Do you think it kind of opened up doors? Because I see like technology is used more to the advantage and it kind of changed it. Do you think this kind of worked to your advantage?
You know what? It really did. It did, because I mean, now, you know, we figured different ways to film, and what we did was we minimized crews so we wouldn't, you know, be around large groups of people, because, you know, you had to take all these precautions. So we learned how to, you know, I know other filmmakers, you know, besides myself, that started doing movies completely on Skype and completely, you know, remotely.
Oh, wow.
And they made feature films, like completely feature films off of webcams, and, you know, and they even did compilations of everybody shooting stuff on their iPhones or their iPads or whatever, and, you know, and made like, you know, anthology projects and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I really think this pandemic kind of putting us in a corner kind of made us think out of the box. And I believe it. Yeah, it was kind of revolutionary, and people are kind of still moving with it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because one movie that I've been waiting on, you know, being a Navy guy, and I come to find out they pushed it all the way back now to May of 2022. Is I've been waiting for this Top Gun Maverick to come out, but I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, let's hold on to it for a minute. But you kind of remind me of what you're saying. It's kind of like, you know, how major record labels, they go towards indie, because indie have that niche, and it sounds like you found that niche, and a lot of content creators have found that niche, because I mean, it was the hospitality industry, then it was Hollywood, and it was just like, man, you know, you had everybody actors going on Facebook like, hey, I'll give you a shout out for, you know what I mean, like everybody had to adapt. So 27 credits, filmmaker. How did it all begin? Like, did you know at a young age, like, this is what you wanted to do?
I did. I was wondering if you were going to ask this question, right? And I was mulling it over in my head how to answer it, because, you know, I do certain shows, or someone will send me questions and they'll ask me. And so I'll give you a short answer for the beginning. Yes, from a very young age, I always knew I could tell a really good story. I just didn't know where I was going to go. So that's the first part of the question. Now, what I want to give you, and what I normally don't give everybody, is we're going to go right into the artery of how I actually started directing, right? Okay. And so and this is a little different, which is really cool. So about 10 years ago, I was already writing. I was kind of like it was a supplemental income. I was a professional photographer. And I was writing, you know, I was ghostwriting and, you know, getting paid, you know, a few bucks here and there. And I had written this script with a guy that was going to help me. He was a director out of Arizona named Rick Vasquez. He's been my producing partner for a decade now, since I started.
Okay.
So what's interesting is, I gained notoriety as far as becoming a director and knowing people in the business by a failure. You know how some people,
wow. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know how some people like, hey, some people can knock it out of the park, but even though you know the music business too, it doesn't happen completely overnight. I mean, that single's got to play around until people it's in their head. Yeah. But what was interesting is I got known for something that just never happened. It just didn't get flopped. And
okay.
So what happened was I wrote this really good script because the director said, hey, I want something real edgy. I want something kind of really cool, got some horror elements. So around that time, it was around 2010, 11, Sons of Anarchy was still pretty hot on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, okay.
I wrote this script and it had everything in it. It had biker gangs and cartels and prison stuff, and it even had an element of like Friday the 13th with like revenge and everything. And the script was, it was decent. I'm not going to pat myself completely on the back, but it was something that caught your eye when you read it. And so being a writer already in the business, I knew people that could get that script out and push it on people. So I started getting, this is before, I'm pretty primitive. So it took me a while even to get social media. Like I didn't even, so I started getting contacted by celebrities like I admired, like Fred Williamson, like wanted my phone number and he's like this big, blaxploitation star from the 70s, Black Caesar, all those movies. Okay. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Fred Williamson and he's asking me for my phone number because he wants to talk to me about a script. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So, and I had, all these people just contact me and I thought to myself, wow, I did it. I made that home run that, and I remember even family members saying, writers, I'd already been writing 2 years ago. That's unusual. It usually takes, a decade to do something like that, Yeah. And they're like, wow, so what happened was the script was a success, but the people we got involved with to make the project were claiming to be what they weren't. You know what I'm saying? And
okay.
We took kind of like a hard, loss financially, and it was devastating for a minute. Mm-hmm. But I just knew I have a lot of fight in me, man, and some people, if they would have went through what we went through and lost what we lost, they would have never stepped back in the ring. But within a year after that, I actually directed my first short, and it started winning awards. And then I knew, like, hey, I can write and direct, because I really just thought I was a writer for a long time and a storyteller. But I realized I did have a vision to put those two together. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing it nonstop ever since.
No, because you said, and once you said how you started off, I was like, yeah, he has the vision. For you to start off with photography, that explains, because photography is capturing that, capturing that story, or capturing that moment. And then we all know, like, I'm a musician. I've had some of my songs placed on television shows and stuff like that. And one thing that one of my friends always told me, like, when I make music, I'd be like, oh, this is garbage. He's like, no, keep that. And those are the songs that I was like, yeah, whatever. Next thing you know, I get a royalty check, and it's on Dance Moms. It's on Black Ink Crew. So no, I'm glad you didn't stop. And then also, we all know, in Hollywood, there's people that claim to be, and then it's like, sometimes we get sucked in that trap. But man,
right, we want to, there's people out there just, like in the music business, they prey on people that have dreams and goals, and you got to be careful, and now in my 10 year, in this business, a solid 10 years actually wheeling and dealing with show business people, people come to me and they ask me, like, for referencing other people, like, hey, are these guys on the up and up, or what about this company? And by now I pretty much know every company out there, or every director or producer that you might maybe want to work with. But it's interesting how you say that. It reminds me of my ghostwriting days. Is I'd see little things that I implemented on on shows and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, I know where that came from. And, it's really cool. It's a really cool thing to do that. And I love doing what I do. I don't think I've ever been any good at anything really ever but telling stories. and interpreting, I guess you can say, interpreting like human nature and people and I tell stories of, like, I mainly do horror, but I mean, I've done comedy. The last movie I did was more of a thriller, about, cheating husbands and wives and stuff. And it's just one of those things where I understand the condition at a young age, and it's what I love to do and what I like to bring to people,
And then you say like 10 years, 27 credits. What do you how do I word this? What element is an important piece to your longevity? And like, what is that component? What do you think that component is to?
That's a good question. What I think it is too, because I've seen a lot of people in my business that have kind of just gone to the wayside, or they've slowed down and just said, hey, I'm going to give this up for a while, or they just never come back. And to me, it's very passionate for me, man. It's it's like how you film music. When I'm sitting there, with my editor and the editing bay, and we're watching, and I he and I work together, and the way things are cut, and I see a flow, and I'm like, man, I like that flow. There's nothing about having that excitement, and then you're adding music to the element. You see the whole raw product, and how you produce music. You start with a beat, you start with then you get a bass line going, and I just love every step of it with a passion. I mean, with a complete passion. People have told me when I'm on set and the scene hits, say they're doing a scene and it becomes so raw, the actors are so into it, I get goosebumps and I get a smile like I'm a little boy playing with a train set, and they're like, "Oh, we must have got it right," And it's some people go mountain climbing, some people skydive. I make movies, and it's a thrill ride for me,
Yeah. Actually, I know filmmaking, other than music, is like it's a whole long process, and I know to get distribution is a whole nother process. But another thing to ask you, because this also affected music, the 10-year time span, Netflix was I think Netflix was like, hey, you to stream movies that you buy, options to mail in a DVD. But now, like, Netflix is like this big behemoth. In the past 10 years, do you think technology has helped you or kind of hindered it? Like, how has technology affected you in your filmmaking business within the past 10 years?
That's an excellent question, because it's like a double-edged sword in a way. What I mean is, okay, back in 2006 and 7, right when Netflix was still mailing out DVDs and stuff, I worked in a video store. I worked to the sister store of Hollywood Video, right? Hollywood Video had a sister store called Movie Gallery, and I was a clerk there part-time. I was working, I had my day job as a professional photographer, but just to make a little extra, I'd work a night shift at a video store. Yeah. And what I noticed is, once streaming hit, and once I remember a buddy coming over and saying, "Hey, why do you got all these DVDs?" My mom, we just stream everything on TV, and and I said, really, and all of a sudden I looked into it, and before you know it, I canceled cable, and it's funny because I started embracing it, and I just started realizing how everything else started diminishing. Like all of a sudden, a few years after I had left the movie gallery, it closed down, because then you had Netflix, and then you had Redbox, and you had more convenient places to watch entertainment. And so it's interesting because physical media is still really cool. I'm a collector myself. I have I don't know how many, maybe a couple thousand DVDs and Blu-rays of, my favorite movies. And it's always nice to have a physical media, but at the same time, streaming has become so huge and so prominent that I probably stream more, and my DVDs collect dust. They're just there because I really like having them. And so anyways, the thing is with that is here's where it this is the difference. I think it's more lucrative now for us that there's more streaming outlets and platforms for our content, because when, back in the day, even in the video, cassette days, what would happen is a distributor would pick up your movie and then they'd have to mass produce it. So the only way you can actually start making money is when you break even with the distributor and those copies start getting sold in stores, right?
Yeah.
But there's some distributors out there that you ask for a report and the numbers might be a little fudged, and then you're like, when are we breaking even so I can see a check? Oh, I don't know, man. We might have to sign for another 4 or 5 years, And so the thing is, now that a lot of things are going streaming, there's not so much mass production and there's not so much overhead, because now they you go through a QC process, and then they upload that, and and boom, it's streaming, and it's building up points. So in a way, it's sad to see physical media starting to kind of dissipate, but at the same time, the little guys that are always kind of getting a little screwed by not all distributors, but certain distributors, they're starting to see a turnaround on their investment. And I know people that have just put like, including myself, my first movie, I was working like 3 different jobs. I didn't even see my family. Maybe on Sunday I'd work at a recycle company on the weekends, and then I'd clean office bathrooms at night, and then and then do a transportation job in the day, and and whatever day I had to work, sometimes I didn't even see my my wife and kids, but I put when you call blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes that's what a lot of these that's what a lot of these indies do. So it's kind of nice that that a streaming platform is allowing more distribution of their product instead of just being in retail stores. It's everywhere. It could be on your phone. It could be on your tablet. It could be anywhere. And it's really, I think it helps the little guy.
Yeah, because it's like when I first started the podcast, and I will admit that I really didn't understand it. I was like, okay, this is a cool little thing, good gig. But it wasn't until, as a matter of fact, me and my fiance were driving to Wisconsin. No, actually Iowa. And it was like no radio. And I'm like, all right, let me pop on my phone and we could get all these podcasts. I was like, you know what? I get it. Like, one lady in PR was like, look, a podcast, you can listen to anywhere. And then I like the story of Netflix going to Blockbuster and Blockbuster laughing at Netflix. They're like, look, let's partner up. And now Blockbusters are like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So within this time frame, what has been like, 'cause I mean, you're a hustler, so I know there's going to be many more moments, but at this moment, what is like your proudest moment? Like, you're like, man, I'm here.
Okay, you know what my proudest moment is? Okay, here's the thing. When I first broke it to my family that I wanted to do this, because they always knew, certain family members, they always knew that, like, Mike's pretty talented, he could draw, he could write poetry, I was always talented artistically. And then all my other family members, they were more talented athletically, and I played sports in high school and everything like that. But man, creating was what I always dreamed about doing. So I had put that in my pocket for so many years, and I didn't really start, like I said, 10 years. I'm in my so getting close to late 40s, and I started in my late 30s, right? Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where it was like the underdog story, where like, oh man, what do you mean you're starting in your late 30s to try to make it,
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's proof that it's never too late. But the biggest accomplishment, I'll try to shorten it, but the biggest accomplishment is my grandparents, they helped my mom raise me. My mom was a single mother, and they were always hard on me because they were old school. They worked hard to make a living. Mm-hmm. And when I first told them I wanted to get into like making movies, they really, really were hard on me about it. They were like, stick to a regular job. That's not for you. And this, and the biggest achievement is when I made my first American Horror Show. It premiered in a movie theater that I used to go to as a kid.
Wow.
And my grandparents, God rest their souls, they're gone now, but they went to the premiere, and I remember them there was like this big ovation at the end of the movie, and I was in the lobby because I sometimes I feel like I can't watch my own product, you know.
Yeah.
I remember one of the actors says, "Hey, aren't you going to go in?" I was in the lobby. I said, "No, it's like looking at myself naked in the mirror. I don't want to go in there." And, so I was waiting, and as everybody rushed out of the double doors, my grandparents came and they hugged me and they cried and they were proud. Wow. And that was one of the best moments of my life. I'm glad I got that before they left this earth.
Wow. No, you know what? And that speaks to your DNA, man, because you like hustle, and I can see that coming from being instilled from your parents and grandparents. So, man, all my great interviews go by so fast. But before we go, I have like 2 questions. Where can people find you? What's in the future for Mr. Rodriguez? And then my last question after that is, say somebody listening, they aspire to be like you. What advice would you give them?
Okay. All right. We'll start with one. I am on Facebook. I'm very limited. I keep it open. I keep at least 25 open spaces. If you want to friend me on Facebook, I'm always at the 5K mark, but I always leave it a little open. So I'm at Michael S. Rodriguez on Facebook. If you want to become friends with me and pick my brain, my office is always open to folks. Just don't throw like 3 scripts at me and say you want me to read them over the weekend. Okay? But I'm also on Instagram. I don't do the Twitter. I have a Twitter account, but I don't do Twitter. But I do have Instagram, and I'm at MSR Studios 1. So you can always find me there, and you can always message me there too. Like I said, just don't throw a whole lot at me, but I'll answer a question or two if anybody's got questions or anything. Don't get weird on me or you get blocked. But yeah, that's those 2 places. There's also another social media platform called Slasher, and that's more aimed towards horror and thriller stuff. You can find me there as well. MSR 46, I believe. So you can look me up on those 3. I'm there, and my door is always open. Now back to number 2. Like I said, about aspiring filmmakers. What I can tell you is, if it is there and it's sincerely there, you're not doing it for the flash pops on the red carpet. You're doing it because you actually get chills when you create something. Whether it's you scoring the movie, whether it's you directing it or writing it or producing it. If it's something that doesn't feel like work, but you're putting in work, then I'm telling you, don't stop. To stay that course. A lot of us, especially in the indie world, we would love to do it completely full time to where like, hey, that's my income. And you still have to grind if you believe in it. You still have to grind. So that if it means, hey, I do this during the day, but hey, man, weekends I'm on set and I'm still grinding. I hardly see my family, but that when you're doing it, it's a love and it's not a job. Then I would say you completely keep striving for it, because you'll hit it. If you stay on course, you'll hit it. Sometimes it takes, some people can do it within a couple years. Some people it takes 10 or more. But if it really is effortless for you, then it is for you, I believe.
Man, there you go, dropping some jewels. And I'm always a fan of, you got to keep it multifaceted, because you never know. Especially like, we never thought 2 years ago that we'd be in this situation. And those who are like you that can adapt have stayed afloat, and others with the old business model, where are they now?
Right. And of course, what I have next is Horror Show 2 is dropping March 4th, 2022. Check that out. It'll be available all over. It's going worldwide. Even bigger than the first one. I collaborated with that one. I even, what I did was I like to give indie people chances. So this one's like an anthology piece, but it's a lot bigger than the original one. I collaborated with other artists because I wanted to showcase other people's talent, because I'm no hater. And so that's coming out. I'm working a couple more deals to maybe work on a series. Oh, I did a movie with Tony Todd, The Candyman.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. I do a little acting, and what happened was I was helping produce a movie called Realm of Shadows, where Tony Todd is the lead character in it. So they needed a unit to shoot the ending of the film. And so when we got there, I got there with my crew, and we were setting up, they needed a character. There was a replacement. They needed a last minute replacement. So I got to be in a movie. I got some dialogue and some scenes, and disclaimer, I didn't get to work physically with Tony Todd, but I'm sure there's a few scenes where we're going to be cutting back and forth. But it's just an honor because Candyman, I haven't seen the new one yet.
No, I haven't seen it either.
But let me tell you something. When I was 17 years old, back in like 92, I went and seen that in the theater, and it scared the hell out of me. Candyman was scary. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about the other sequels. I don't remember them too well, but I remember the original one. It freaked me out.
Yeah, I actually watched the Candyman over the weekend. That one and then the second one. Yeah, and it's still scary.
Yeah. So that's coming out. I believe we'll probably see that in 2022 as well. But I mean, just to have a credit on a poster with the great Tony Todd, it's just I'm over the moon about that. So look for that. Realm of Shadows.
Ladies and gentlemen, another great interview here on Deeper Than Music Radio with Michael S. Rodriguez out there in the San Joaquin Valley. So I'm Mark, Furyus Nias, and again with another special guest, and we're signing off on Deeper Than Music. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.